This evening we have with us Kevin Bieber. Kevin Bieber is our current Oley Fair president. He has been serving as president since the end of 2002. And we welcome Kevin and some of the things he's been involved in over his lifetime actually, of the Oley Fair. So welcome, Kevin.
Thank you.
Do you recall, what was your first job as a volunteer at the Oley Fair?
Yes, absolutely, I recall. As a young kid, I went with my father to the Saturday of setup of the fair. And after probably the first couple of years, or as I got a little bit older, I remember Frank Fisher, who was the president at that time of the fair, coming to me with a pick and a shovel. And he said, "Come with me." And I went with him. And my job was to basically dig a ditch from what was the old bingo building to the flower building. And the reason we were digging a ditch, it was stone at that time, and the reason I had to dig that ditch was because the flower building did not have water running in the flower building, but we had water in the bingo building. So obviously the flowers needed water, and so they had the easiest way to get water there was to dig a ditch, run a hose under that ditch, during the fair, and then they were able to water the flowers. I remember I hated it at first and probably never really liked it because I always had stones flying all over the place as I was digging that ditch. But that's something I did for several years. Frank always came to me with that pick and shovel and said, "You know what to do." So that was my first job.
What are some other fair memories that you have?
So I'm glad you asked this question because I have a bunch. So I'll just kind of go through them quickly here. One of the things that sticks in my mind is we used to hang all of the sponsor signs at the stage in itself on the rafters. And the one year, and I just don't remember what year it was, basically we had a bad windstorm that was coming. So we ended up, before the fair even started then, we ended up taking those signs down after we just got done putting them up. And they never really made them back up for the year because there was pretty much wind throughout the 3 days of the fair, and we certainly didn't want anybody to get hurt. But it was after that then we started putting those signs out on Jefferson Street for all of our what we call now the gold sponsors, and that's where they've been ever since. So I think that was probably meant to happen that way because I think where they're at now provides a lot more visibility to our sponsors. Then the other thing that I remember is basically in 2006, I was one that was instrumental in implementing the major sponsor levels of the blue ribbon, red ribbon, and yellow ribbon sponsors, of which we still have today. That brought in some additional money to the fair and also brought in some much needed exposure for various different businesses in the valley throughout the fair. So that was something I've been very proud of. The other thing I'm very proud of too is back in 2014, we started a pumpkin weigh-off and a pumpkin patch. The reason we did this is the year before that, the large pumpkins used to go in the vegetable building. And as the years came on, they got bigger and bigger and bigger. And that year before, which would have been 2013, we were there basically building up the steps so that these pumpkins would not collapse throughout the fair, putting stuff under the steps, some 2x4s and whatever we ended up doing, I don't really remember. And after we got done, a gentleman local to Oley here had a garage in the Oley area. His name was Johnny Knoll, who was a pumpkin exhibitor along with his sons and grandsons and family. He whispered in my ear, he said, the Oley Fair needs a pumpkin weigh-off. And I remembered that, and then I actually attended the York Fair that next year. And at the York Fair, they had a really nice, basically setup of what they call the pumpkin patch of very big pumpkins. So I kind of got to thinking about this, and I thought, Johnny, you're right, we can do this, we can solve a lot of problems here. So we started in 2014, we started that pumpkin weigh-off where on Wednesday evening of the fair, before the fair technically opens, we have the pumpkins that we weigh off, and then after we're all done weighing off, we have a big tent now that we provide or get provided for the pumpkins, and we create a pumpkin patch, a real nice pumpkin patch. And it has really become one of the favorites of the fair. People ask all the time, where's the pumpkin patch? Where are all the big pumpkins at? But the way off is a lot of fun, especially as you start to see all the trucks come in with the trailers and these really big pumpkins. These pumpkins are over 1,000 pounds now, and just is a really, really fun night. And I attribute that all to John for just mentioning something to me and then just kind of starting to put two and two together. But we have a lot of fun with that. The other thing I remember about the fair is kind of a little funny. As spring water started to become a thing of people buying spring water in bottles, I was treasurer at the time of the fair, and I suggested to the chairman of the soda department that maybe what we need to do is start selling spring water. And he was not a real big fan of that because he liked to sell his Pepsi, which was the beverage choice at that time. And but we talked about it, and then we started selling spring water. And today it's one of the biggest sellers. We go through 1,000 cases of not only water but also soda. But it's something that's pretty popular at the fair now too. The one thing that, I guess you could say I remember about the fair and still is today is the fair would not be what it is because of volunteers. All the volunteers we have and all the hours they put in, and everybody just chips together to make this a great community event. And every once in a while, the fair is a passion of mine, and I really enjoy doing what I do for the fair and the fairgrounds. But every once in a while, I get people to say, why do you do it? And, I look back at when I was younger, there were people that were doing what they did for me when I was able to just run around the fair and enjoy myself. And now it's my turn to give back to the community, to all those younger people as well. But with the fair and the volunteers and just a great group of people, that's what really makes it fun. Yes, it's a lot of hard work. I don't think anybody would deny that, but it's a lot of fun at the end. So as far as fair memories go, just a couple here. Running around the fair as a child, I lived fairly close to the fairgrounds, so I was able to just kind of come and go as I pleased. When I was really younger, my mom and dad always told me how sometimes they took me to the fair and I had to have a winter coat. And I always remember that, especially in today's environment when some of the days that we're up there at the fair and we're sweating, just doing whatever we're doing. But I always remember my parents saying that. The other memory actually is fairly recent. I was in the Celebrity Dairy Showmanship Contest last year. And I think, this was done on purpose. They found the biggest cow they could possibly find for me. And, not being somebody who's, accustomed to walking a cow around a ring, the cow stepped on my foot not only once, but twice. And the rest of that week, my foot was quite sore, but I didn't let too many people know that. The other memory is back when I was younger and I was able to start helping at the fair. One of my jobs was in the soda stand, and that's when we had tap soda at that time. And, we would tap it out of the taps into the cups. And being it was in September and it was sugary soda, you had a lot of bees. And how more people didn't get stung is beyond me, but there were a lot of bees around the taps, and you had to just kind of go about tapping your soda and not worry about the bees. But since then, we have gone to bottled and got rid of all that mess. And probably my final thing that is a memory is when Harold Wiest was on the nominating committee back in 2002, I guess it would have been. After the fair, he came to me and asked me if I was interested in becoming fair president, that he would like to nominate me as fair president. Our previous president at that time, Dan Levengood, had decided he was ready to, step down as president. And I was quite honored, with the fair being a passion of mine, and never really thinking that I'd ever be, the leader of the fair. And it's just something that really, I love to do, and was glad that I was asked to do it. So that's pretty much what I remember.
Well, thank you, Kevin, for continuing with your passion through all these years and being our leader for the last 20 plus years. We appreciate everything that you have done and for all the memories you share tonight.
Okay, thank you.